All right, looks like we're live. So, one of the things I wanted to discuss today was I've been seeing that a lot of athletes and a lot of well-known celebrities have been involved in politics. They've been involved in public opinion. They've been involved in conspiracies and whatnot. And I just want to start off by saying that Kyrie Irving is probably the first one that came to mind because he's another flat earther. And for those of you who are listening who don't know what a quote unquote flat earther is basically a person that believes that our earth is flat. When in fact it's been proven time and time again, through many historical scientific discoveries that our Earth is in fact round, but there's so much confirmation bias out in today's internet that a lot of these celebrities, a lot of these athletes, a lot of these known public figures kind of turn to it, which is a little bit bizarre because it kind of it runs in parallel with what I feel, and this is my personal opinion, what I feel about the Church of Scientology and their beliefs and how they basically don't even brainwash a person's mind. They hijack their brain and their form of thinking, and they shape them to be a certain way, act a certain way, and to have a particular type of conscience. But let me get back to Kyrie Irving. So Kyrie Irving, for those of you who don't know, he plays, I believe he's a power forward or a small forward, I forget, for the Cleveland Cavaliers. So he plays opposite of LeBron James sometimes, but depending on I won't get too much into the sports numbers, like the number 1, the number 2, number 3 position, but just know he's one of the popular basketball players on the Cleveland Cavaliers team. So he is a flat earther. I've already used that phrase. Flat earther describes people who believe the earth is flat. And quite frankly, I've seen him, B.O.B., and a couple other people believe that the earth is flat. So I think that's outrageous. I think that's ridiculous. And I think, quite frankly, and this is my personal opinion, feel free to chime in. I believe I have a chat feature enabled here. Let me invite everyone here. But here's the thing. Whether you like it or not, I have a sense of I guess borders, and I'm not talking about political borders. I'm talking about know your place as an athlete, and know your place as a politician, and know your place as a public figure, of course. Now, with that being said, I'll give you an example. What's her name? Is it a older chick actress that dissed MMA, and then she started talking shit about? I was at the Oscars, I believe, or at the Emmys. I can't remember. It was it Sybil Shepherd? I forgot her fucking name, dude. Well, anyway, she went up and said that mixed martial arts is not an art. So what she thinks is irrelevant, if you ask me, because I strongly feel that quite the contrary of what she believes. So that's the example I'm trying to set, though. You have to know your place. You have to know what to say, and I'm not saying, censor these people, but you kind of have to have a conscience as far as like what to say and when not to say it. A time and place for everything in its place, pretty much, and a lot of it is timing. So, what brings me to my first point is that if you believe that dinosaurs were fake, that they weren't real, that they were all made up for profit, if you believe the Earth is flat, if you believe that, and I was one of these people that there's like these global elitists kind of conspiring against everyone to pretty much take over the world and create this new world order. I'm not gonna disrespect you and say, hey, you shouldn't think like that. That's fine. Everyone has the ability of free will and, to pretty much think on their own. But some of the stuff that I've been hearing is just plain out ridiculous and it's outrageous. So I think that especially with professional athletes, actors, actresses, and public figures, you really, really have to mind your audience. I mean, a lot of them don't even have a conscious thought that, man, they're just that popular. A lot of people look at them. I remember, and this is given out a shout out to Mr. Joe Rogan. I remember him saying that he hung out with Dave Chappelle at this party, and he couldn't wrap his head around the fact that Dave Chappelle doesn't even feel like he's that popular, like he just wants to fit in normally, when in fact that's not the case. A lot of people know who Dave Chappelle is. I can tell there's a lot more people that don't know who Joe Rogan is. They might have seen him, they might have known him as a host of Fear Factor, but he's not that impactful like Dave Chappelle was globally. But bottom line is they need to understand where they're having an influence at. And I use that word strongly, influence, because they don't have control over things, because there's things out of their control, but they have a deep influence and stuff. And prime example is, like I said, professional athletes. So professional athletes are the prime example of, I just have this thing, like, from Colin Kaepernick, Tom Brady, who else? A couple other athletes that I know, they stood up and did something politically driven. But now here's the thing: is I understand their motive. I know what they're trying to accomplish. I know what they want the outcome to be. But I just personally feel that professional athletes just need to kind of sidestep that and have very minimal opinion and not be too much on the offensive, unless, here's the thing, there's an exception with me, unless it affects them personally, like directly to a immediate family member. But then again, if you put in that situation where your family member is directly affected, you probably don't want it to make public headlines, or you don't want it to make it the public's business. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's got to be kind of, it's like I said, time and place for everything in its place. But that being said, I'll use Colin Kaepernick from the San Francisco 49ers as an example. And for those of you who don't know who Colin Kaepernick is, Colin Kaepernick at one point was a force to be reckoned with. So he is, if you don't know who he is, he's the quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. Now, granted, when he first, and I'm going to just give you some brief football history here because I'm pretty good at it. When he first came into the league, didn't get much playing time, but he was a threat. He was a physical threat to defenses around the National Football League. So, fast forward, the starting quarterback for the 49ers at the time, whose name is Alex Smith, who now plays for the Kansas City Chiefs, he was injured. And after his injury, he comes in, has a great season, leads the San Francisco 49ers to the Super Bowl, and they lose on a one last hurrah play against the Baltimore Ravens. So he's had this rapport with other NFL players of being a big mouth, kind of being a punk, being very, very verbal, very outspoken. And fast forward to just this past season, he spoke out for police shooting deaths that are occurring nationwide, the Black Lives Matter movement, and publicly displaying his grievance, basically, towards the current state of police brutality and police shootings. So what he did was he took a knee, during the national anthem. One time, well, I believe the first time he did, he sat. He sat down during the national anthem. He didn't sit down to express his unsatisfactory feeling towards the United States of America. Well, that shit pretty much blew up like the Godfather when it first debuted in theaters. It just did not. It blew up, but in a very bad way for Colin Kaepernick. And from sitting down during the national anthem, taking a knee during the national anthem, and then wearing socks during practice, 49er practice, that resemble a pig wearing a police officer's uniform. So everyone got the niche, everyone got the hint of what he was trying to accomplish and what his outcome wanted to be. So I believe that his outcome ultimately was to send a message out, which is fine. But here's the thing: is they went on to have one of the lousiest seasons, I think, in franchise history. And I don't know if that was just poor performance, or you can blame the coaching staff, which is partially true, but what kind of tone does that set in the locker room for these guys? And what kind of tone does it set for that person, Colin Kaepernick, I mean, publicly? Like, you know, he was getting mixed reactions from different people. People were dissing him on ESPN, on Fox News. It went viral. It went crazy. But I know all he was trying to do was speak out. But he, again, needs to remember, he has to remind himself how much money he makes playing professional football. And I'm not saying take your money and shut up, but I'm saying recognize that you are an influencer. You have to mind your audience. That's the thing. And the same goes for a lot of other athletes. I mean, you have to, like Kyrie Irving, I'll use an example as well. He believed the earth is flat. How many young aspiring basketball players do you think he's going to have an impact on? How many has he already influenced? Think about that. So, I mean, that's kind of what I really wanted to touch base on. I wanted to bring this podcast back, but I didn't want to go too long. I just wanted to touch on one subject at a time and not kind of overwhelm listeners with a bunch of stuff, unless I'm in a group and the panel kind of, it's a little bit better. Usually when I'm by myself, I just kind of share my thoughts about stuff that I've been reading all day, share them with everyone, because sometimes it's a little too much to type out. I'd rather just speak it out so that way I can vent to either just myself or maybe one or two people that might consider this podcast. But anyway, this is Ed Namrok. This is the Ed Namrok podcast. Signing out. Today's date is February 21st, 2017. We'll see you next time.